Oh, Ravi, you also joined. Go ahead. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Very good evening to one and all. We welcome you to the Deccan Positive Mental Health webinar series. We welcome today resource person Dr. Sripriya Shaji ma'am, counseling psychologist and nutritionist Srija Counseling Kozhikode, and we welcome participants and our teammates on behalf of Manasa Sukkara Mindcare Hyderabad in association with Yellowborn Counseling Center Hyderabad, Forest Creative Heart Studio, Punjab. Thank you all. Over to intro section, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful welcome. And a short intro about today's resource person is Sri Priya Saji, ma'am. Dr. Sri Priya Saji is a doctorate in counseling psychology, and she is also a nutritionist and art therapist. She has 2 decades of experience working in hospitals, which made her skills sharpened in health psychology, and further she has grown passionate in nutritional psychology. Her scientific publications have figured in 12 international and national journals. She has also 15 scientific presentations to her credit. Recently, she is becoming notable keynote speaker in international conference. She is also the founder of Srisha Counseling Kozhikode, which is affiliated to World Mental Health Federation. She is also found Women Mental Health in India, a special wing of women-related issues. She co-founded Community of Nutrition Forum, a community of nutritionists and towards health awareness and right eating habits among general public. She is also columnist in the international magazine Mind Matters and has penned a good number of healthcare articles and other magazines. She has delivered more than 500 health talks of general public and various community health groups. With that short introduction, I would like to hand over the session to you. Happy to have you, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Nevin. Thank you, Mange, and thank you, everyone. I'm very happy to be here on this special platform for the very special day on, like, in observance of World Suicide Prevention Day. Thank you all. Let me just give me a screen share. Can you view my screen? Is that visible?
It is visible.
Yes. So today's the topic is going to be hope after the storm. What do you think that hope after the storm? Which storm? For whom it is? Can we have a very interactive session?
Mainly, I think you're referring to any major happening, trauma or loss of dear one or loss of livelihood, things like that. If something happens, people will be definitely in the storm, in the sense depressed, lost, and things like that. Therefore, I think you are going to talk about the after that, what to be done or whatever it is. That is what I'm thinking. Hope after the storm.
Exactly. So what, anybody else want to say something about this?
Come on, JS.
So when everything is going smoothly,
Huh.
everything is going smoothly, suddenly something unexpected happens to you. Coping up is one of the major issue when something happens to you.
Okay.
Maybe I thought the hope after the tragedy or whatever it may be in the life. So we just make what are the options available for us to come out of it.
Okay,
That's
right.
what I think.
Okay. That was very interesting. But today we are not going to a general or a person's regular storm. This is going to be totally related to the post-venture care. Post-vention care. Before that, already Naveen has given a beautiful introduction. I just also want to add one more thing to that. Recently, I was pursuing my MSc in nutrition again because my bachelor's was in nutrition. Since I'm into nutritional psychology researcher, I thought I should pursue an MSc also. So recently, I have completed my MSc in nutrition and dietetics also. The results just came yesterday, so I thought I should share my happiness with you all. And right, thank you, sir. To the today's topic, there are always two parties in the death. Any death, it will be like one party is a dead person, the other one is the bereaved survivor, and the tragic loss, especially natural death. Most are getting old, and death. Every death has a definitely grief will be there for the survivors. But the tragic loss like accident is different, and the most tragedy is suicide. See, looking up of our loved ones taking their own life. That is the very painful of all the deaths. Definitely everything, there is no like a degree of concentration or dilution in any, that grief is grief for anybody. Still, in the tragic loss of taking their own life, the survivors who left bereaved are always into a very pathetic condition. Why? Can anybody say why they are different from the other survivors with the natural death or accidental death?
Madam, can I speak now, madam?
Yes, sir, please.
This is Bhanu Prakash from Hyderabad.
Yes, sir.
This is regarding late marriage of boys.
Ah,
One of my relative is now in US, madam.
okay.
He is getting delayed his marriage even after 32 years. He is not telling properly
Hmm.
whether he wants to go for marriage or not. He is prolonging and postponing, and we don't understand why. What may be the reason? That is the question I want to ask him.
Okay. That maybe we can take that as a different topic after this session, sir.
Yeah.
Definitely, we'll discuss that later part. But now the question of this is, why do you think that the survivor of the suicidal victims or suicidal persons, why is this survivors has to be taken with more care? Can anybody say? I'm
Quite
sorry.
often we hear the family members also attempting a suicide
Hmm.
after the death of the near and dear. It's
Yes.
very close to the person, is very close to the heart. So obviously, the survivor needs an extra care and an attention to ensure that he gets back to a normal life.
Okay, that's the one right reason. But when there is an accident or when there is a natural death, the survivor doesn't follow this. It is not a contagious process. But when they have the victim has witnessed or been closely associated to the process of death here, their post trauma is getting heavier, and they are getting into the different kind of altered depression. Like there must be guilt, there must be a question why. The unanswered question why is going to haunt them forever. So these kind of things are leading them into the again major depression, and this becomes a contagious process, and there are more chances they end up in suicide. There is a statistic which says that one suicide is followed by 365 suicides. That is what the WHO statistic says, that one every suicide is followed by 365 suicides in the same pattern. This is where the post-vention care becomes very, very crucial. That is why these survivors are different from a survivor of natural death or survivor of accidental death. What is this post-vention? Post suicide care, always it is a prevention, intervention, and postvention. So we all know that process. Postvention is the provision of crisis intervention, support, and assistance by those who are victimized by the suicide. They are affected. They are strongly affected by what had happened. The sudden trauma happened in their life. At some time or some point, this post-prevention care becomes prevention care also, because when you talk to the person or the attendee or the survivor, there are more chances of depression, major depressive attack, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So when it is recognized and it is taken care of, the risk of them committing suicide is reduced. So postvention can be evolved into prevention at some point of the time. So postvention is a very simple word derived from the word post, meaning after, and intervention, postvention. It encompasses a very important professional care. Any suicide or any kind of death followed should be navigated to the any death, normal natural death or accidental death has a path of grief and healing. We say that the grief of any death is 1 year, no? 3 months to 3 months, still it is a very strong grief period, followed by it is a healing period starts, isn't it? So here there will be first, more than the grief, there is unacceptance, denial. How is it possible? How can my loved one do that? What is the reason? Why they didn't tell me? And all these questions will be the very haunting. The very normal intuitive questions become a very haunting question, haunting nightmares. It will really make them, why they didn't tell me that they suffered this. This is another important question. Most commonly, if a friend dies also, every friend will say, no, I can't even believe this. This kind of shock is the first initial response to the any survivor. So from the shock, denial, they will not accept. Sometimes they will say, no, 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 this is not possible. This will never happen with my friend's case or my wife's case or my husband's case. I don't believe. Sometimes even these survivors will go to the extent and say, like for example, if a girl has committed suicide, the immediate family members will say, if she's dying from her husband's house, they'll say that they murdered her. So these type of reciprocations will be very shocking revelations, and there will be like hauntingly, why will be haunting them for at least minimum of 1 month to 3 months period, and then they will go into the grief, then only the healing starts. So the shock and the denial is the first process here. So why is this post, what is this post-vention care? This is to facilitate the grief of the loss of the survivors, because they are very going into the very crisis ship. It is not a very normal process, or it is not a protocol or something which they can overcome, or not as just sudden shock. This is going to be a very long grieving process, and it also may have the impact on the survivors to do the same. So the reduce the negative behavior from the survivors. Sometimes even most of the times, if there is a celebrity loss, we can hear immediately, like so many people has followed the suicide. That is also happening in the normal cases also. It doesn't, the person doesn't need to be a celebrity. Even in the normal cases, even after the exam results, if there is one revelation of suicide, there will be a pattern followed. So this negative behaviors should be reduced. That is why post-vention care is very, very important. What are the most common goals to achieve is support the grieving process. Most commonly, people says, okay, in Tamil Nadu, they commonly say, போனவன் போயிட்டான். That cannot be said or done with that. It is not a very simple process for the person who lost, whatever may be the age of the person. It cannot be easily said. And the goal, very important goal, is prevent the imitation and re-establish the healthy atmosphere. Because any area, for example, if it is in a community or in resident apartments, you can see the atmosphere repeats. So re-establishing all the very dull and hollow situations should be re-established with the healthy atmosphere. And long-term surveillance is very, very important, especially in schools, among the teenagers, schools, colleges, and the vulnerable population. You can say that teenagers, women's, and the elderly people more than the normal men. So what is the risk assessment proximity? Most commonly, the geographical area. Like for example, as I said earlier, if there is a suicide happening in a residential apartment, there may be, this person may not be related to that person. But if he is exposed to the sudden news of the shock of the death or suicide, what happens is this person may be coping with something, but he is not unable to cope up. He may try to imitate the what had happened to this person. So the risk and vulnerability is very, very common. So geographical proximity, psychosocial proximity, and the population at the risk, as said earlier, teenagers and women or the population at the very high risk. What to do? Immediately after suicide, what NIMHANS suggests us, immediately after suicide, the goal should be minimizing the trauma to that very close supportive family, not only to the family, also to the next circle, it should be extended to the friends. For example, even if a person is a in a, maybe we all know financial losses, like there are people committing suicide after financial losses. So this person may be having a group of people associated with him, maybe they are also undergoing certain financial losses. So these people should be identified. It is not just his family and his geographical area, but also to his official associates, also to the people who he is having the bondage of giving and lending and giving money. So these proximities has to be immediately addressed, and every individuals from the family should allowed to express their condolences. They should not be I'm sorry, keeping quiet, or they should not be like I'm not going to come, I cannot see this victim like this, nothing like that. So they should continuously allowed to express their communication. So, who are the high risk family members? Immediate family members, relatives, children, friends, and first responders. There are most of the times, no, what happens is the first responders may not be totally involved into the case, but if they have seen this, for example, if someone seen somebody hanging or somebody falling from the height, what happens is they also undergo a post trauma. This also has a greater impact of causing morbid depression. So they also should be addressed and taken carefully into the counseling session. Colleagues at workplace, individuals connected with the person and has the history of suicide. There are sometimes we may miss, for that recently we had a suicide in a colony. So in that colony, everybody said this person is totally not associated with that person, but that person has already has some mental ailments, and she had been attempting suicide previously, but she followed it. So these kind of people are very vulnerable and they should be addressed immediately. The close proximity circles has to be, the risk circle has to be assessed, and especially children should be handled very carefully, because sometimes or most of the times when we see this even the parents suicide, people will strongly so, no, 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 my child has not seen that, you need not take her into counseling, because we have a stigma always associated with counseling, no, more than the victim mentality or grieving mentality. We are very much worried about sending them to the counseling. So children has to be carefully taken into counseling. They should be very extremely challenging, because they couldn't even comprehend what had happened to them recently. That is the very difficult part. They might not have seen, but they have heard different versions what happened. So they will be associating and they will be visualizing or perceiving things on their own level of intelligence. So there, your words and your terms of speech matters a lot. So they has to, their own way of coping is totally different from what an adult associate or what an adult does. So their our communication style should be totally different, and they should be carefully handled survivors. They are very important survivors. They must be given post-tension care. What is very important in post-tension care is communication skills, and in this communication skill, the very very important skill is hearing what isn't said, what is not said. That is a very important thing about communication skills in post-tension or any kind of grief care. So, addressing communication skills to say and do. Most commonly in our society, especially in South Indian society, we immediately somebody step in and ask, "What happened?" We know what happened. Why is that question repeated? How it happened? What bothers you? What matters you? Why do you want somebody to repeat on the traumatic situation? So avoid such questions. Be an active listener and allow the person to talk on what has happened, and let them process on the things. Just listen, and listen carefully the areas they avoid or they are not able to express out. There are certain areas when their grief will go to the extreme and they will swallow the words. For example, when I went to a child who is just 15 years, she said, like, it had happened after, then she'll give a pause. There is something happened, but I should not be interested in what had happened. I should listen to the child, how the child is able to cope up or process on what had happened. So that kind of active listening is very important. And times we have to tell. Sometimes, no, after a teenage suicide or maybe a well-built person, everything is pakka. He's suffering into depression for a long time. The no smiling depression cases, no, the family will totally be like having no idea what happened. They will be continuously why this happened. So there we can tell them there are different types or illness out there. It is okay, but we cannot tell them what happened to your son is okay or daughter is okay. But we can say that what happened we need not get into. We have to accept what had happened. There is what explaining the different models of suicide, and we should be totally non-judgmental. Sometimes even some of the suicide victims, especially in cases of alcoholic dependent people, no, once they are even drug addicts, the attenders will be totally into uh, guilt. They'll say, I could have done something. There we should be totally non-judgmental. Nobody can have done something to stop any suicide. Totally, it is a minutes of thing. But only thing is they must have gone to counseling or treatment earlier. Here the attender will be like survivor will be continuously having their own self guilt. What could have done by me? So there be non-judgmental and give them a supportive approach. And very important, prime your words. Use every single word very, very carefully. Never even say or like cause a more guilt, or even don't blame the person who died. Both are very important. Sometimes what in the case of alcoholic, recently I had a case like that. The wife was the survivor, wife and daughter was the survivor. Somebody has told, anyhow, he's gone, hereafter be in peace. That is not a right way for them. Whether he is alcoholic or drug addict, whatever he may be, even he may be a killer or whatever, he is a most wanted person for them. So we cannot blame anybody. We should be very, very non-judgmental, and we should use a very appropriate language. And very important thing, most of the cases, we should support the family how to go about their daily goals. That is the very important thing. Most commonly what happens is if the head of the family or the son of the family is lost, sometimes if that is a teenage son or a middle-aged son, the parents will be totally bereaved. They could not even think what next. So there we have to step in and tell them how to move about the daily life, what to be needed to be done. And as I said earlier, never give false hopes. This will change. This too shall pass. There is a very common statement these days. People come and say that this too shall pass. This will never pass. The death, the pain, the thing will always be stored in their life. They will be bereaving forever. So don't use such false hopes and don't give any kind of empty reassurances. Instead, be consoling. If we could not speak any words, just hold their hands and be supportive. Listen to them very carefully. There, it's what we are supposed to do. And very important, if you find this survivors or very, very like depressed, you should identify the gatekeepers in the family, that is especially relatives or friends, who can be around them for next few months till they get better. That is very important. We have to identify some gatekeepers, and that person should have a very good communication, and they can able to reduce the stress of the family. They should not like keep blaming, or they should not keep judging the family. Instead, they should like engage the family. For example, if there might be a relative who is very much judgmental or keep on blaming, your son was like that or your daughter was like this, that is why this things happen, such relatives should be avoided. The caregiver should be very carefully identified, and they should be very positive people who can hold the person in the grief and just stabilize them. They should not be very judgmental, as well as they should not break down along with these people. Both should be taken care of, and that person should not also use substance or any kind of things. So follow up is very, very important in post-venture. Most people think like one set of civil counseling or two set of counseling, that will not work. Persistently up to 6 months the follow-up should be done. And if there is any red flags like persistent sleep problems or unusual sadness, withdrawal, or expressing the suicidal thoughts, I now even I might have died along with him, why should I live like this, such kind of thoughts, if you are finding behind the person survivor, then immediately that should be also addressed. And the intense feeling of the loss and guilt, no, they could not go back to work, or they will be continuously sitting back and laying back and saying that I could not come out of it, I could not. And sometimes even these days now, what we see is we'll just store these numbers and we'll follow even their status. They will be continuously putting all the old memories, photographs. It doesn't mean that they could not recall that person, but they should not sink into that old memories. That is very important. We have to carefully watch and listen. And those, if they feel that my life is totally meaningless without that person, then definitely they should be immediately addressed. These are the red flags always we have to make note. Until the anniversary, death anniversary also, if necessary, the follow-up should proceed. And post-vention care can even become a support group. We don't have such much of the support groups in India. In other countries, they have a lot of support groups, but in our South Indian society, very few, like the NIMHANS and IMHANS are having the support group. But we should have a more of support groups to follow with these people and talk to them. And to the bereaved people, no, we have to continuously have in the close contact to reduce their stress levels. So what are the statements? There are some interesting statements given by NIMHANS. As I said earlier, they have given the statements to affected scenario. If there is a statement like, I hate him, I never thought this day will come, he left us alone deprived, this person is demonstrating the anger and abandonment. This is also very important red flag. There you should not go and say that, yes, how can he do like that? Such things should be avoided. Instead, we could not comment anything. We should just keep our like I'm sorry, we should keep our opinions away, and we should only listen to the survivors anger and abandonment. Their anger should also be reduced, because that is not a anger, that is a immediate loss response. That is a kind of, I'm totally abandoned, what will I do now? So this kind of abandonment is making them feel more furious. It is not actually they are angry. Okay, so the next statement, next example is, I don't know what happened. She called me yesterday and wanted to meet, but I could not. If I would have met her, I could have stopped it. It is on me. This is a kind of guilt. Most commonly, friends or relatives say so. Even parents say, sisters say, like, my sister called me yesterday, but I couldn't go and attend her or see her. If I have been there, there is nothing like that. That cannot be the single person's guilt. That has to be made, that survivor should made understand that there is no need for guilt. But here, when the person survivor is continuously saying that, better stay close with them, be supportive, and let them keep calm after certain period of ventilation. That is very important. The period of ventilation we give, no, that is very, very important period for any survivors, because they have lot of the things running to, as I said, why, what, when, where, all these things. There are so many questions behind their scenes. So allow them to ventilate what all they think. That is very important. And another example is also there. It's been 8 months since the daughter has died. He left his job, stays alone, and not willing to join work correctly. So this kind of people, no, they will be totally lonely. They don't go and get along with people. They will be like away from everything. So such people, we have to establish contact and encourage them to come back to the professional help. That is very important. because when they are going lonely, that means they are behind the post-trauma, they are going into morbid depression. The initial one is abandonment or anger is the initial furiousness, but getting away or keeping themselves isolated is they themselves got into morbid depression. So this is the red flag areas we have to identify. And very, very important, like before the death or after the death, talking about what happened, or saying statements like sometimes people make poor choice kind of statement should be, and even the words like he has done suicide, such things has to be avoided. And when there is a kind of friction, for example, if the person has committed suicide after familial issues, or even after a dowry issues, these times both the parties will be totally in a tough situation. Anger, fear, abandonment, all this will be together, but the reactions will be totally different. Here every words we use matters a lot. So the post-vention care is very, very important, because post-vention is needed for the victim who lost. For example, if the parents is died, the child will feel that the child is abandoned. Why? There are so many children, they will have one question: why did my father left me alone here? That is what they will have, that fear of abandonment. So the same thing happens with even the mother's loss. When it is a husband or wife, again the same kind of fear of abandonment will be there. When there is a financial loss, there will be a continuous question, and there is a drug abuse victim or suicidal victim or any kind of other reasons, there will be a kind of guilt. I could have stopped this. How can I have stopped this? Such things has to be, the kind of guilt and all those things should be allowed to ventilate it for a certain time, and then you should give them a maximum period of uh, consolement. The process of post-vention should go like this: give them the time to ventilation, then goes the grief counseling, then goes after the grief counseling, we have to give a gestal therapy, and we have to give them the contemplation stage. They have to accept the things what had happened to them, and from the post-traumatic stage, they should come out of it, and then finally we should give them CBT. So this is how the therapy works. Any questions?
Wow, very brief but very powerful presentation, Shaji. I'm very happy.
Thank you, sir. Actually, my source is from NIMHANS suicide prevention care.
Very good, very good. Hey guys, no questions.
Madam,
Fully satisfied.
Madam, can you please share the PPT in group, ma'am?
Okay, sure. Is there any experience sharing kind of like we had any plans like that, and experience sharing is there?
Shaji, somebody has raised some questions,
Huh.
not much related to the topic, but if you can answer, please answer. See the message box, if possible. And also, Bhanu Prakash asked some question. You said you will answer it at a later time.
Okay.
These two, if possible for you, try.
Definitely, sir. I'll look into that. In the question in the chat box, thank you for the congratulations and nice session. Thank you, ma'am. In case a couple in a relationship lasts 4 years, but right now in between there is something that went wrong, but they don't want able to find the causes of the situation. They also blamed to each other and say, you don't understand me. How we can counsel this type of couple? Okay, this is totally different from today's session. It is a couple therapy session. So in the couple therapy, most commonly that initial years of relationship issues, we can like say that initial years, midlife crisis, and end stage. Mostly the end stage problems are very, very less if that is unresolved in the initial or midlife crisis. So initial years of crisis commonly happens with interpersonal skills, and next is this communication skills, financial reasons, and very, very important, there is sexual dissatisfaction or the childbirth issues. These are the very major reasons of the initial years crisis. Here, the situation says that they blame each other and they say that you don't understand me. So, this is either falls under the category of interpersonal skills or communication skills to me. Okay, so first I'll assess their interpersonal ability, how they communicate with each other, and I'll have them to sit. And there is a expectation, marriage expectations, and kind of what they expect from the partner. This is a very common. What is the expectation disparity? So this has to be assessed. And
Can
yes.
oh,
So after that, with their level of communication and interpersonal ability, we can talk to them further. Am I right? Seniors are here.
Absolutely, you're absolutely.
Thank you, sir. So Bhanu Prakash sir also had another question, isn't it?
Bhanu
He
Prakash.
said that. Bhanu Pratap sir. Okay. He said
Hello.
that. Yes, sir.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Okay, then I can proceed, right? So his question was like his relative boy is not willing to get married, and they want to find out the reason. So there are, like, very commonly there are few reasons. First reason, what every one of us think is they must have different affair, isn't it? So today it is not only just different affairs is the reason. Their gender issues are the reason. Their financial, the children today are very competitive and they have their own goal set. So until they achieve that, they are not ready to get married. There are their own ambitions and their own styles. So what is stopping him has to be understood from his point of view. We cannot, like, straight away forcefully. Even I had recently a girl who is 28 years old, and the parents were very much worried that she is not willing accepting any marriage proposals, and she was continuously concentrating in her education. So after talking to this girl, she said she has some kind of mentally, she has seen her sister had a bereaved marriage, and her sister was cheated on. These kind of things were affecting her internally. So these things also is happening in today's lifestyle. So we have to talk to the particular person in person. Otherwise we cannot, like, give a wild guess or our opinions. That will be very bad. But today children are very really, they have like, I am seeing so many people coming and saying, ma'am, I have so many ambitions, I want to, like, fix it up. Before that, I don't want to get married. To some I'll say that, okay, this is a limitation, you have to fix. Your ambition has to be stopped, and your even family life has to start from here. To certain cases we cannot say that. So that particular person, you have to be non-judgmental, because sometimes even gender issues are coming up these days. Children are ready to open up their gender problems. So we have to be very, again, every cases we have to be very non-judgmental, and we have to wipe our generational mindset, and we have to wear the new cap. Their generation mindset, even I say, including me, I'm 40, but if I see a 30, they are totally different person. 20 is another different issue. So we have to become, like, get back to the present scenario. That is very important.
I talked to my 3 granddaughters. They say every 5 years there is a generation gap.
Exactly.
Because of the knowledge explosion, Google and all those things, they say they are different from us. 5 years gap. Previously, we used to talk about father, mother, daughter, like that. Now things have changed. I'm very happy to see Dr. Pratap Reddy, founder of Dhruva Management College. I think I'm seeing him in first time. Pratap Reddy sir, up hai? Dr. Reddy sir. maybe. Okay, continue. Actually, somebody, Mahesh W. raised
Yeah.
his hand.
Ma'am, I have one case. She is a 23-year-old girl. She had an ambition of, going for MBBS. She scored 86% in PUC Science, but she did not get free seat, and she was willing to go even abroad, but her father was not affordable to pay the fees for her MBBS course. After that, she was not interested in engineering. She went to BSc, PCM, I think. Then after that, she is not doing well. She is depressed, and she always thinks about medical. She always thinks about MBBS, and she
Actually,
has more. Yeah.
I understand. I understand. Actually, these kind of cases also we commonly see because children, they are wanting their ambition, but what
Yes.
happens is they are not meeting the required criteria.
Yeah.
There is a gap that we have to address. This the gap between the ambition and the criteria, how much you have to study, how much you have to put in effort. Irrespective of putting in efforts, there are some children, they are putting like lot of effort, but they are not smart at it. So
Yeah.
these kind of things has to be initially addressed. Honestly, to speak, the competitive preparation needs more of counseling, I can say, because their children are totally depressed. And there another thing we can see is like once they set back, even you can see this in the dentist population, because throughout their life in school level, these are the creamy layer, first rank, first rank, first rank. And once they enter all the creamy layer together, enter into MBBS or BDS, there again they feel like they are second or third. They could not accept this. This is what is happening to this girl also. She couldn't accept what has happened to her life. So here we have to give her a DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, that is
Okay.
for mainly body image. But I'll say that even in the cases of acceptance of what is happening, I use the DBT because understanding what is the fact and understanding the reality from what we want it to be.
Okay.
These things are
Okay.
totally different, no? So this reality and expectation meets at one point, and from there, how you kickstart. That motivation has to be given to that kid.
Child. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Madam, I request you please share your contact number in chat box.
And Shaji, don't hesitate to charge them if they are going to ask your counseling. Tell them, because what I found, free counseling is losing its
Value.
impact. Therefore, anybody wants regular counseling from you, initial talk is different. Please do not hesitate to charge. Please.
Actually, initially I used to not to charge, but after some time, people were saying like, if you are not charging, we feel so embarrassed to come back to you.
Yes.
Better charges. So
Charge.
now I am started charging.
If we are not charging, that doesn't look professional, madam. There will be no value for that
Yes, Mahesh.
knowledge and degree.
Yes.
We have to charge minimum amount at least.
But still, some people are like me, like old school thoughts are like to our friends and dear ones. How can we like make what to say? There is certain things which is beyond the charges, right?
Yeah, it's better than like if
Yeah,
you.
time also. Like if it is going to be my own brother's daughter, or if it is going to be my friend's daughter, I have something. Though my counseling will not go from the professional way, but there is some intimacy I have to that person, no, that cannot be measured with the money.
That is different. That is a different issue, of course. I do agree.
Anybody, can you please share your like suicidal or suicide attempts cases or any postvention care you have given? Though I know it is a 1 hour session, I reduced the session because I thought we should have some experience sharing also. because the suicide is not happening even in one particular age group. It is not just children are doing, or after exam loss or business loss, even farmers are going to the threat of suicide. Even police personals we see, doctors we see, psychologists we see, because
Scientists,
psychologists and
scientists.
psychiatrists or scientists, we are very vulnerable population to suicide. So have you come across any such things, or have you had a suicidal thoughts?
What you're asking? Sometimes it happens, even for a normal person. Occasionally, that thought comes, and you should be in a position to laugh at it and deal with it instead of getting into the deep into that and getting the depression. Most of the time, if we know how to laugh at ourselves, some of the problems can be solved.
Yes.
Oh, I got the suicide tendency. Thank you. Not that I'm not asking you to take it lightly, but at least as an adult and grown up and having some knowledge of these things, we should be in a position to laugh at ourselves. That is what
Another thing is we have to understand that, accept that getting suicidal thoughts or depression is not that only to a mentally sick person.
Yeah.
Any normal person, to any kind of events they may feel.
they may
They
get.
may feel. In my life, I had a situation. Uh, it was I had fertility issues. So after my IVF, I got conceived with twins. That is third set of IVF only. I got conceived with twins, and that I lost in stillbirth, 27 weeks. Like almost everything was okay, and we were thinking that everything is going to nourish well. That was the end of the day, and that was totally. I was in an august situation. I couldn't accept what had happened. I could not even believe that the child is already lost. That moment, I felt like, should I? How can I survive? I don't even I cannot say that it is a suicidal thought. I just feel like getting out of hospital and going away. I just walked out of that labor room, and that was a midnight actually. I was walking out of the labor room without anybody's knowledge, and I was just walking out of the corridor, and I saw my mother and my mother's sister and my husband were lying down, and all the entire family. I could recollect my entire family is, if they are they have to come back, I have to stay there. If I have to get a child, I have to be alive. That was a moment. I can't say whether it is a suicidal thought, but I was without my sons. I was walking out in this corridor, and what made me to turn back also I don't know. But there are situations that happens to any human being. Anybody can turn to either dark side or light side. That minute of emotions, how do we cope up?
That is the most critical question.
That is where what we are supposed to do is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. This four health we have to keep on concentrating always. Physical health through good sattvic food, mostly preferable. I don't say go against non-veg. I'm a non-vegetarian. But what I say is don't go for high junk. That is high fat, high sugar, high salt. Those three will not keep your conscience close. So always have a limitation. Mindful in eating. Okay. And keep yourself exercising always. This exercise keeps your brain loaded with oxygen, so the supply to the oxygen will always be there, and that's continuous. It should not be like everyday rigorous gymming. Daily basis, walk for 30 minutes, do something on daily basis, and that exercise also includes your hobby. Have a good hobby, do some painting, do some singing. Don't listen to singing, you sing from yourself, you dance by yourself, move your body. That is one other thing. And mental health, always keep calm and keep analyzing. That doesn't mean that every time you have to go back and analyze every day, but at the end of the day, get satisfied with what is the volume of today. Yes, today this much I have achieved. I was better than today, yesterday. That will make you mentally fit. And then emotional health, don't be always an outburst. Think before you react. Respond, always respond, so the emotional health will be in good control. Why should I talk now? Why should I react now? Why should I shout now? Whether I shouted is right or wrong. Just it takes hold for 1 minute, your entire reactions will change. So that is that emotional health. Spiritual health, definitely, whatever may be your belief, whatever may be your prayers, keep spending at least 10, 20 to 30 minutes in a day for your prayers. That will make your tranquil very better person. So that in a very crucial phase of life, like I said, this situation, I didn't decide anything. It happened. But what happens is, because we were constantly into good things, you will be turned into the good path. This is the simple way of spiritual health. Continuously, if you keep on praying on the difficult situation, you will be holded by your prayers. Not somebody will come and hold. Your prayers will hold you. The words, the belief, because continuously praying, you will say the positive word only. No prayers has a negative word. Have you ever listened to the prayer? There is no negative word. I can be better. Nothing like that. The prayers always says that you are very mighty God. So always every prayer has only positive affirmation sentence. So that is enough for the affirmations. So these constant things will keep us away from the suicidal thoughts or suicidal mindset. And even in the difficulty, the coping can be achieved.
Only 3 things I will add, Shaji. Walking, pranayama, meditation. These 3 also should be there, a part of your regular life.
Yes.
Whatever you said, I am just adding these 3. And most important is always have a good company, good friends with whom you can share. Even your suicidal thoughts you can share. What I'm saying is you should be in a position to lean on somebody's shoulder in case of necessity. You may not have 10, 20 friends. Like that, 3 to 4 friends is enough for you. Regular interaction with the friends will be always better.
Exactly.
Right. Mahesh, you want to say something? You came suddenly on the video.
Yes, sir. I joined little late.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Sunanda, floor is yours. Who is saying this? Oh, Shaji,
It's a wonderful session, Srija. Srishana. It's a wonderful
Shaji,
Shaji.
Sirisha Council. Jyoti, you give the Jyoti.
Both
You
of
give
them is
the
only your part. I don't
okay.
But it's a wonderful session. It's a thought-provoking session, in fact.
Actually,
you're
I was not
asking
very
me,
sure whether I'm going to attend fully because my granddaughter has come. But luckily, she is spending time with the friends. Wonderful, beautiful session. And every single point you made makes an impact. Therefore, we loved the session. And most important is you gave a lot of time for interaction. Thank you very much, Shaji. And on behalf of the Manasa Subakara, DPMH, Yellow Pond Counseling Center, and 4, I have forgotten the 4 square art or whatever it is. On behalf of all the participants, we are highly thankful to you. Hope to see you again. Once in a quarter minimum, you have to come and address us.
Thank you so
Thank you. Thank you, Shaji. If I happen to Kozhikode, I'll come and sit with you for some time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mahesh, you want to say something?
Sorry, ma'am. Where do you put on, madam? Your
Kozhikode.
clinic?
Kozhikode.
Sorry.
Kozhikode.
Okay.
Kerala.
Okay, madam. Okay. Thank you.
But anyhow, give the contact number, Mahesh.
Yes,
you
sir.
can put in the contact number in the message.
Yes, sir.
So that
I
Mahesh
have
will
noted.
You have noted?
it, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Thank you once again, Shaji. All the best to you. Thank you, all the participants.
Thank you. Thank you.